Three, two, one. Fragments of Silicon is now offering a one joke return. If you get a bad joke, you can return it for another joke.
I'd like to offer a quick disclaimer. I did not authorize that refund, so unfortunately, I'm going to have to pass.
I forgot.
Well, you
Get
know
rid
the
of that
refund doesn't
policy.
state.
Huh?
Yeah, the refund does not state that the new joke will be a good one.
Yes.
I don't want to be refunding jokes at all.
I'd be careful with that new policy. I've seen comedy clubs just go out of business with it.
Yeah.
So
See,
Well,
Ogre gets it.
here's me forgetting the word policy. So
Here's that Ogre gets it.
This is what
like-
happens when people don't get enough sleep, isn't it?
yeah.
it's like those 3 Taco Bells I put out of business, free refills. Shouldn't have done it, bitches.
Okay. Yeah. So
I'm sorry,
welcome
we
to
had a
the
show tonight?
yeah. Well, welcome to the auspicious E3 edition of Fragments of Silicon. At least the main show. I
You
mean,
can tell it's an E3 edition because there's no guest.
Also branding.
not only that, the fact that we've got like 7 hours of content already this week.
Jesus Christ.
At least
I'm
7.
not even- I don't think I'm even joking about that either.
There was
I can actually confirm this.
there was
Hold on.
Microsoft, Bethesda.
Mhm.
Guys did 3 on Monday. I was there for 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
I'm still actually behind.
Wait, I think you did. Did you do 4? No, you didn't do Ubisoft.
No. We did Limited Run, we did Sony, and we did Square Enix. So
And
And
there was
then-
the PC gaming.
yeah, PC gaming as well. That
So
we
you
did.
did do 4.
Yeah, we did do 4. So yeah, that's kind of why we're all loose and loopy this week. We've been busy. This is our busiest week of the year. Like, so
Actually,
you.
Adam, we're close to 8 hours.
I'm like, oh, there you go. Like, is that even factoring in the reviews we did this week?
No. God help us.
Point is, we've been busy. I'm like, even if we could get a guest, I don't think we would want a guest this time. This is kind of the relaxed session for the week.
That's
Mhm.
just so rude.
Anyway, the regular crew is with me here. Like they've been with been doing the various streams.
On and off, depending on our availability.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin joined us for a bunch of them. Like, no. Anyway, I guess we should get to the news. Let's see. Mac, why don't you go since you have non-E3 stuff going on?
That's right. Well, almost all of the principal casting for Space Destroyer Hunter is complete. I'm in final negotiations with one of our main stars to finally get that going. I've mentioned to a few people who that is, but it's we'll say it's NDA until it officially happens, and that's the only one so far. But pretty excited. We've got a pretty AAA cast going. We've got Skylar Davenport. We've got Haley Mills, Kira Buckland. Michael Zekas came on board as Lieutenant Certain. Rachel Messer reconfirmed as Mavine. We got Paul Sieber as First Citizen Doral. I mean, there's a lot that goes into guest stars, even when you try to put together an episode with minimal cast. And that has been pretty harrowing. I'm not looking forward to it when we have like tons of background characters in future episodes when we have a bigger budget. Starship Moonhawk was starting to get out of hand with that because the Mercadian Affair, in its 8 parts, has a cast a veritable cast of thousands, and including patrons that we owed walk-on roles to.
Darn those Mercadians and their complicated affairs.
I know, right? So, I mean, it's been a pretty exciting that, and I'm catching up on 39 comics owed plus 5 commissions, and trying to do a full animation project, write, direct, and produce. Oh, right, and I'm part of the animation team. You know, I went to bed at 6:30 this morning. I
Congrats.
got up around 2.
You slept in then, friend.
Yeah, I know, right? This is what I do. This is what I do on my paid days off. I'm burning my vacation time at work, so that way I can get more work done. Because I'm insane.
Yeah?
But it's what I need to do to survive, and continue to be able to eat these luxurious dollar store chips.
Most crazy people would just sell a kidney.
You know what? I have a phobia of going to Mexico and dying.
Then just don't die. Problem solved.
It's nothing personal against Mexico. I mean, it's not like the president or anything like that. It's more like virtually every story I've ever heard about this usually involves ice cubes in a bathtub. And
Yeah.
then notes, dial 911 somewhere on the north side of Nogales. So, yeah, definitely not doing that. But I got to tell you, and I know I've said this before, and it was actually just as true then as it is now. We've never been closer to actually making this thing happen. I mean, we got 1 1/4 episodes of Starship Moonhawk done, which seemed virtually impossible 2 years ago. So
it weirds me out that's
yeah,
because you've been talking about this literally the entire time I've known you.
right. Well, it was always the end game. I mean, but as we all know, especially 9 years now in the entertainment business, this is a long game. It's not a get rich quick scheme. Anybody who thinks that, oh well, step 1, have a great voice. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, profit. They're delusional if they think that's how it actually works.
Honestly, sounds like the guests we have on this program.
Uh-oh.
No, we have a lot of game developers, and they'll say the same. It's a different field, but it's the same ethos. It's very rare that you actually hit the jackpots.
Yeah,
Not everyone can be Braid or Super Meat Boy.
Right.
the hardest thing is explaining to friends and family that this is my career, and I'm sorry that you don't see the return on investment. Like, I'm sorry that you don't see a regular paycheck like with a typical job.
I've had this conversation.
Yep, but this is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, if you play your cards right, you will get that one big score that will kind of pay back all of the years of hardship, if you're one of the few who are blessed in that way. And if not, you keep going and scraping by and living the dream, I guess, but you never give up. I know that sounds corny. I'm not going to pull some Galaxy Quest never surrender bullshit, but
No, that's kind of how this show operates.
yeah, you cannot give up on it, because success is just one more failure around the corner. You got to fall down a lot in the entertainment business, because there's so much money and so much risk at play in this business that it makes people with less intestinal fortitude afraid. I think that's why a lot of people just settle for stability instead of uncertainty. I mean, it's very stressful.
No doubt.
It's very stressful. I don't, it's like some days I'm just like, all right, I got them to agree to this. Now, where the hell am I going to get that money I just promised them? Oh, don't worry, I'll figure it out.
Just stab Wall Street and drain a little out the side. They won't notice.
Now, how many pints of plasma can I sell and still be alive?
Pints is a lot.
Well, we have what is it? 9 pints of blood in the body.
Uh-huh.
And plasma is just the suspension material that holds that together.
Uh-huh.
So, if you drink a lot, you can replenish it quickly.
I do platelets a lot.
Ooh, that's nasty.
That's not that bad.
No, the extraction process is lengthier, that's all.
Yeah, I usually stay about an hour and a half or so.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've donated plasma. I did that. I donated probably about $600 worth of plasma.
Last night, thud.
Yeah. After the first 5 trips, the price drops.
Well, I imagine so does the quality.
No. Federal regulations. You know what? I don't want to get into this. The fuck with that.
No, I know what you mean.
Suffice to say,
they don't want people. They don't want people literally killing themselves.
Well, you know what? Because some people would do it. They're like, oh, federal regulations say I can come back every 2 days. Not if you're bruising. Then you get put on a 3-week hold. Anyway, so let's see. That's it for Space Destroyer Hunter. Starship Moonhawk is updating again, so that's exciting. And I'm inking a page on Picardo right now. If anybody wants to watch the stream, username Mace Palladino, Picardo TV. That's it for me. Moving on.
All right. Geez. Petty Fan, why don't you go?
It's hot.
Whiner.
I don't have air conditioning. Bite me.
Oh,
but,
God.
It's 106 here in Tucson.
And that's close here with the heat index, but still. Oh. Yesterday, my dad and I went down to the company that's going to be putting the new gutters on our house, so that's fun.
Exciting.
In game acquisitions, I found the recent Skylanders, I think it's Imaginators, at our local Five Below for $5, and I figured, what the hell?
See, that's how they get you, though.
Yeah. Well, it's like I already have Skylanders stuff, so...
Oh, okay. But you need the new Skylanders stuff.
I can get it if I want it. It's currently, being clearanced out at Walmart.
Yeah, that's true.
That sounded a lot like I can quit anytime.
I mean, I can't. Like, I honestly, it's like, when I started playing the Skylanders, like, I'm only getting the ones that look interesting. Fuck getting all of them.
You're still
Listen, I did something similar with Transformers a few years ago. The trope is true. Crack is cheaper.
You start with just a couple things. The next thing you've got a like 3.5 foot tall Fortress Maximus taking up space where you used to keep your bed.
I would, honestly. I probably would.
Looking at the 2 boxes I have with Skylanders and Amiibos next to my desk, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I shouldn't talk. I'm going to have an Amiibo budget problem coming up since they finally announced a bunch of new ones.
Oh, my God.
You got like 5 new ones to get here so far, buddy. So
yeah, the Octolings and Ridley and
good luck finding Ridley, asshole.
He's
too big. He won't fit in the
Amiibo
Amiibo shelves.
I'll pre-order it somewhere if I have to.
I'll get it. Oh, I got it.
Oh, let's.
But the Octolings ones look cool, though.
I can quit this anytime.
Also, I'm still trying to get a hold of Samsung to send my smartwatch in for, I guess, repair? Is there something up with the battery?
If it was that smart, it wouldn't need to be repaired.
Shut the fuck up. And as far as like other stuff, not a whole lot's been going on.
Duly noted. All right. Ogre, you're up.
Well, it's been E3 week, so everybody's been kind of busy with stuff here and there.
Yep.
I welcome death.
Pretty much, yeah. The recordings went fine, except for the first one, because somebody next door had to have Stanley Steamer come by at that exact moment. So if you can listen really carefully on that video, you can probably hear in the background.
I don't want to hear that.
Just Stanley Steamer next door, just there that whole time.
Did
You're
they
friendly
get the
to
carpets cleaner?
So they better damn well have had, because he drove off afterwards. Better be one of those, you better not be back.
I'm using the side of a pen as a ruler right now.
Let's see. I picked up the Mega Man Zero collection for the DS. I
Cool.
stopped in at GameStop after a dentist trip the other day. And I
Have you
went.
ever played the Zero games?
Huh?
Have you ever played the Zero games?
I played the first one and I wasn't really that impressed by it. I think
For my money,
whole
3 is the
thing
best.
that
Yeah.
it has that stupid ranking system, and I really don't care for that.
Yeah, it's best to
Did
probably
I?
play the first time, trying not to care too much about that. Although that's easier for the first one because 2 and 3 have
Yeah,
EX
they have
skills
the
based
EX
on
skills
ranking.
for the bosses and everything, and that's kind of like the. Also, I never really cared for the whole like, here's these new little cyber elf things that you have to love and cherish, and they're very important. But if you use one, will condemn you forever. Even though that's the only way. Even though that's the only way you can get health extensions and sub tanks and special abilities for your character. But
Well, in
you
2,
know,
in 2 and 3, there are actual sub-tanks you can find.
yeah, I've noticed that too.
There are 2 sub-tanks you can find, and there are still 2 elf tanks. 3
But
at
it's
least
just-
has a way to use elves without killing them.
But it's just that whole like, really, you're gonna give me this new feature and then you're gonna condemn me for using it.
Yeah, it's best to play like the first time or two without caring about ranking and just.
Well, that's
Idle
why I
ranking.
like the ultimate story mode thing, 'cause they just let you play on easy mode, and so you got literally everything and all the elves beforehand.
Mhm.
So it also just plays you through all the games, so you don't even have to change halfway through, but you can still play through the other games.
Mhm.
So that literally means with the Mega Man Legacy Collection and the X Collection coming out next month, I have pretty much almost all the entire Mega Man timeline stuff.
Now, what
The
about
important
Legends
stuff.
3?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. If 11 does fine, we might see something with X9, and maybe we'll see a breath out of Legends 3. But I ain't holding mine on that one.
ZX gets no love.
Yeah. Anybody
ZX
remember
was really
Star
good.
Force?
It just needs to be freaking uncliffhangered.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it gets more love than Star Force. I actually saw the developers of that game forget that they made that. Joke.
Star
That's
Force is
fair.
also better than it has a reputation for being.
I know, it's just, it's just kind of the ultra forgotten part of Mega Man.
Yeah, didn't it get like only like 2 games, and the anime was based on bombed so hard it never even got finished?
Actually,
got
Star
3
Force
That
got
was
3
that whole
games.
trip. And there was
Yeah.
that whole trip to Iskandar. Oh, wait, wrong series.
But yeah, I picked that up. So basically, if any point we want to do that whole Mega Man series, I still have to pick up ZX and Advent at some point. But
Right. Naka did the Mega Man Legends games.
yeah, so
He
you know
just
how everything ends. All your favorite characters are dead. Deal with it.
he just
I feel like-
needs on
I feel like I need to do a commentary series on the top tier Omega level fan games.
I like
Ultimate, Rock Force, and is it the Super Robot something like that. There's 3 of them that are damn near Capcom quality. Is that an oxymoron?
Nowadays, almost. Didn't used to be.
Yeah, I mean, they actually made Capcom actually made the investment into one fan project when they did Mega Man versus Street Fighter.
Oh yeah.
Or Street Fighter versus Mega Man or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
They actually kind of officially endorsed that one, and it's available on their site, so it's kind of a thing. I kind of wish they had done that with like Ultimate, because that really bridges the gap between Mega Man and X.
But let's see.
Plus,
Other than
Robot
that,
Masters were pretty ingenious.
turns out I figured out why our cat probably likes soft food a lot more recently.
Toothache.
One of her fangs are missing. It must have fallen out at some point.
Dude.
Yeah, she yawned. She was sitting on my desk and yawned, and I noticed it, and we're like, "Oh, okay."
Is she at the age where she can still grow them back, or?
She's 16.
Oh, so that's a no.
Yeah, that's a very hard no on that one.
This is just cat getting old.
Yeah, this is just cat getting old here. So, that was kind of a harrowing moment, but I guess, old age catches up to us all.
Calm down, boy. You're not that old.
What the hell do you kids know about getting old?
My back.
But you have to deal with it and therefore become a better adult for it. Oh, wait. That's like 95% of people who didn't. That's right. I'm calling you out, baby.
Sometimes I don't know what Ogre's talking about.
It's best if we just smile and nod, Mac.
Talking about people who think they've grown up, but they haven't.
I don't want to grow up. Oh, it's too soon.
That's it for me, so.
All right. Twilight?
Well, I had to order a new motherboard several days ago because the one on my old desktop gaming PC went kaput on me for some reason. Still not sure why.
On the E3 stuff. Fuck it, I'm out.
Possibility.
Didn't your computer die before we started doing that?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it's like
preemptive.
Few days just before then. But yeah, we have to wait till Friday to get it, and then I can have Saturday to install it and get the PC up and running again. And then let's see what else. I've been helping with repainting the bathroom. That's something we do every spring. And we're at the paint for the yard in, and it seems to be doing okay. Looks better than before, though the grass is still kind of dead looking. There's still some bare places out there as well.
Now, is this just so you can replant your lawn, or?
Yeah, that's probably what we're gonna have to do is just replant and hope it works. In terms of gaming, of course, I've been enjoying E3 and saw some stuff I'm really looking forward to. And during the time that my gaming PC's been down, I've been playing more on Persona 5.
I need to get back into that.
Yeah, I got to the third palace. The game's much easier than the previous two. I've noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For once, Atlas isn't kicking you in the balls repeatedly while laughing.
Oh, that's mainline Shin Megami Tensei right there.
Well, yeah. Well, Persona 3 and 4 had some issues.
Yeah, they've all had their issues.
Yeah, but they're less aggressively, intentionally kick-your-ass-ish than the mainline ones are.
Mm.
Yeah. No, I have to say
like that one boss in Shin Megami Tensei 3 that just has a chance of proccing this combination of moves that will just unfailingly kill you without you being able to do anything.
So that's Nocturne, right?
Yeah.
I assume you're talking about Matador then.
It was either Matador or Mott.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten that far in Nocturne. I have to play that again at some point. Anyway, and I have played the games we're reviewing this Sunday, and that was short-lived.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Like, E3 week. I'm getting the small games this week.
Yeah. And that's about it.
All right, Gallix.
So I have not been spending as much time on E3 as everybody else, but that's because I have a job. So, that was inconveniently. I don't have enough vacation time to take E3 off, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, Twilight hasn't been on many of the streams. So.
True. Yeah, but his computer also exploded.
I know, but he has a job.
Anyway, I still have been spending a significant amount of time watching that stuff, and I've been pretty excited about a lot of the stuff Nintendo put out, even though their conference was definitely quality over quantity, and still a little bit less quantity than I'd like to see. But,
That's next week.
Mm-hmm. I'm currently downloading Octo Expansion. Like literally, my Switch is in the other room, near the router, so it'll download faster because my room has weird walls. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the new amiibos, and I haven't picked up Hollow Knight on the Switch yet, but I probably will at some point.
I forget, did you get that game last year, or?
Yeah, I did, but
Yeah.
It's good enough that I'd like to actually give them some money for it.
Fair enough. I'm just trying to remember,
No, I did, and I've played the first chunk of it.
Right.
Also, if it's on the Switch, I'll play it more often, probably.
Anyway.
Otherwise, not a whole lot going on here. I've had a very busy week. And it's not over yet. I have to take my car in for a inspection tomorrow.
Right.
Which hopefully does not uncover anything that's going to take like 3 days to fix. That happened last time. It was frustrating.
You remember.
Anyway. Yeah, that's about all I got.
Anyway, all right, I guess it's my go. Well, as has been mentioned throughout the entire news segment, it's been E3 week. We've been busy covering all of the various conferences. Not all of them, because there were, no joke, 10 fucking conferences this year. And most of them were on Monday. I'm like, believe me, I was glad I cut the Ubisoft conference.
It would have been an
Ubisoft
hour of us
right?
laughing.
Not necessarily. There would have been a lot of
crying involved too.
Yeah, there would have been a lot of slack-jawed gazing at the Just Dance number. That's always a fucking bizarre experience. I do lament the fact that we were robbed another reaction because of the Star Fox and Starlink thing.
Yeah, I still need to look at that one in Square Enix, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, and if you want to get our, raw reactions to everything, the various streams have been preserved and are available in our archives. So, that being said, outside of E3, my cat has fleas again, so that's
boy.
Yeah, well, we had to spend a significant portion of today cleaning the place, and spraying because fleas.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotta clean up the closet tomorrow. A cat gets in all sorts of places, so.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. It's hopefully, still have to get the cat his flea medication. He's been outside, and I think he knows. Because he's been avoiding coming in, so.
Yeah.
Once he's in, yeah, he's getting his flea medication because flea bites are not fun.
No, they are not.
It itches. It itches.
Don't have to take him to the vet, thankfully, because we already did that. So he's already got his supply. It's a bit early, but he needs it. So, outside of that, that's about it for the news. So I suppose we can play the in-between music since we only got one topic.
I was not ready for this.
I always wonder why permanent marker doesn't come off my tablet screen.
Oh God, no.
I mean, seriously, dude, I'm not ready for this. What kind of sound guy are you?
Yeah.
God damn it, that was not the pen tool.
Yeah. Anyway, there's no guest this week, so who cares? Seriously, I'm like, it's been a long week. I'm in a forgiving mood.
Yeah. It's one of those, we were debating exercising the fuck the show this week, right?
Yeah.
Well, you
Anyway.
MSP theme, like you're secretly longing for it to come back or
That
something.
was a misclick.
I'm telling you, it was a misclick.
Anyway, welcome to the topic of discussion. To provide a contrast with the ultra-modernness of E3, we're going way, way, way back into the past to the Golden Age. And we're going to talk about one of the not lesser systems, but not as popular as the Atari 2600 systems, which is everything else, really.
Oh, what a world.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you think of classic gaming from 1977 to 1983, you're either thinking of arcade classics like Centipede, Pac-Man, Asteroids, what have you, or you're thinking of the Atari 2600. But there was a world beyond that, and probably the principal rival of the 2600 was the Intellivision.
Really? You think so? I thought the ColecoVision was a bigger deal than that.
Well, here's the thing: the Intellivision was first. The ColecoVision didn't come along until 1981, 1982.
Yep.
The Intellivision, it was test marketed in 1979, released in 1980. So, not and granted, it's not the first rival to the Atari 2600. That's the Magnavox Odyssey line.
But it is a good one.
Yeah. But I think I can say that the Intellivision was, more successful than the Odyssey squared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my overlays.
Indeed. Oh, yeah. So where to start on the Intellivision? Because there's a lot of facets to this thing. I suppose we should start with its awful, awful controllers. Because I'm guessing, really, this is the thing that kickstarted the phone trend.
Yeah, the Intellivision had two controllers that were, I believe, permanently attached to the base console.
Yeah.
And the format of the controller was that there was a wheel at the bottom, and then there was a 9-way keypad that had a little slot that you could slide paper things over.
It was configured virtually identically to the ColecoVision controller, except that it had a disc that rocked back and forth on a...
Oh, right. It didn't spin, it just tilted.
It just tilted, and it was horrible. Have you ever tried playing Frog Bog on a real Intellivision controller?
I don't think we had that one.
Thank God I paid $4 at a garage sale for my Intellivision.
Yeah, honestly, the Atari 2600 version of that is better.
Yep. Not graphically, but definitely in every other conceivable way.
And I suppose that goes into a weird tangent about the Golden Age that doesn't get brought up much, but here's the thing, the first parties of the age did stuff on other people's consoles. No joke. Like, Atari made games on the Intellivision and the ColecoVision. Coleco did games on the Intellivision and the 2600. Mattel only did games on the 2600 through their label called the M Network. But yeah, this was the thing that happened, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Yeah, Parker Brothers like to sleep around.
Well, Parker Brothers was a true third party. I mean,
Yeah.
And on that note, the Intellivision versions of various third-party titles were notable for how much better they looked graphically. They didn't necessarily play better, but I bring this up because
vis-a-vis the controller.
Yeah, it's like if it had the DB8 plug, this would have been mitigated like the ColecoVision, but it doesn't.
Right.
So you're kind of stuck with the shit sandwich, phone thing.
Side buttons.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it did have those, didn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, my parents had one of those, but they only brought it out one of these, and they only brought it out very rarely, and like they got rid of it before I was even like 12. So
I had it all, man. I had the voice synthesis box.
Oh god, that was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Made famous in the AVGN episode about the Intellivision. And the
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I had quite a bit of stuff for the Intellivision, and it was interesting.
Well, here's the question: did you have the keyboard?
No, I missed that one.
Yeah, so that was actually a bit of a scandal because this was during the age where eventually the idea turned to turning these console systems into computers. It was a terrible idea, but like Intellivision was promising the keyboard components for a number of years.
Are we talking like piano keyboard?
No, we're talking about a keyboard.
Okay.
As in
I
a
wasn't
computer
sure.
keyboard.
Right.
Intellivision was one of the early systems that they attempted to mark as an edutainment system as well as a game console.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a lot of weird add-ons that didn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. The name of the product itself stood for Intelligent Television.
Right.
I think that's important to note if we're going to talk about the history of this console.
Okay. Oh, indeed. And it was also a powerful console for the age.
Yeah, this was technically 16-bit.
Yes, I think it was 16-bit combined.
Nonetheless.
But yeah, it was actually a fair bit more powerful than like even the NES or the Master System. But it's still a thing that dated from the the late 1970s, early 80s. So
before the graphic blitters were a thing.
Yeah, it's like so it didn't have, and plus it had a different mindset. Like the NES and the Master System are designed with scrolling in mind. That really wasn't a consideration for the Golden Age consoles, or really the computers of the age. But that's a whole other kettle of fish. But yeah, this is the thing that started like the first system war and the first graphical war.
Yeah,
because
it was vastly superior to the Atari 2600, that is for sure.
Yeah, and it may seem laughable to us, or even if 20 years ago, but the Intellivision was sold on its lifelike graphics. I am not making this up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, keep in mind, this is lifelike in comparison to the Atari 2600.
Mm-hmm.
There was an entire ad campaign around this, the George Plimpton ads.
I think the most notable thing about it was that like the color separation was a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Like, and the sprites were more detailed, such as they were.
The ColecoVision demolished it 3 years later.
Right.
But the ColecoVision was less powerful. The only thing that the key differences between consoles was what technological tricks they decided to employ on the graphics chipsets in order to accomplish their goals.
Mm-hmm. And this is also where sports games start becoming really important. Like, I mean, they were always important, but once again, the ad campaign was centered around the Intellivision sports lineup, and comparing that to the Atari 2600. And I couldn't tell you how effective it was, other than it seemed to make Intellivision competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Now on the other side of the equation, the other big gets of the age were arcade games.
Right.
Like, once again, it's such a different age when the hot shit wasn't necessarily the stuff you made original for the console. There were examples of that, like
I'm side-eyeing you, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember playing that one. I thought I was just bad at it, but no, it's actually bad.
Yeah, it's like the Tron games. Mattel's most notable original work was probably Astromech. It's actually a really good game. I played it. And that is something that did appear like on the Atari 2600. It's not as good. But Atari had like the lion's share of the big arcade games, whether through their own stuff, or through like they had a agreement with Namco. Like, that's how they got Pac-Man, for example.
Right.
Or Taito, Space Invaders. Like, Space Invaders was one of the biggest sellers for the 2600. So,
in fact, it's probably the most synonymous game with the Atari 2600.
Indeed. Like,
so much that it was a pack-in game at one point, along with Missile Command.
Right. Like, and what Mattel had to make with was the second stringers. Coleco would follow in their footsteps. They wouldn't necessarily grab the missile commands or the asteroids. I know those are Atari, but they got more the Burger Times of the world. In fact, I think that was their biggest arcade get.
Oh man, either that or Zaxxon and Mr. Do, Sega. Whew.
Yeah, Zaxxon was actually that was actually Coleco. Though Coleco did bring...
I was thinking something different.
Yeah, it's like, but once again, Coleco brought all these games to the Intellivision. Like, it's just Mattel had the Data East stuff. It can be hard to parse all this, but they had some other original stuff, like generally considered to be the proto-form foundation of the real-time strategy genre, Utopia, one of the games that made use of the keypad. Like, we have Shark, which is basically any game that has a eat or be eaten conceit. It has this game to thank. Snafu, one of the earlier permutations of Snake. Like, Armor Battle, which is kind of their take on combat, and so on and so forth. Like, the Intellivision lineup is fairly robust. Obviously, nowhere near the library that the Atari 2600. If I could compare it in more modern terms, it's comparing the PlayStation 2 library to like the GameCube or the Xbox library. It's respectable, but if you want to get a measure of just how fucking successful the Atari 2600 really was, go look at the library. I mean, yeah, there's that whole the shit games led to the crash thing, but that's just something that comes with the territory no matter what, as it turns out. It's just they couldn't restrict anything because that was pre-license agreements. Let's see. There were a couple of versions of the Intellivision. Like,
yeah, they made like a compact one.
yeah, the Intellivision 2, if I'm recalling correctly.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I want to say there was a version that combined the Intellivision and the IntelliVoice. That might have been the Intellivision 3, but I'm not sure offhand. But yeah, the Intellivision 2 was one of the trendsetters of the smaller, cheaper redesign that happened with consoles. Uh, and Intellivision managed to hold its own until the crash, like the the great video game crash in 1983, actually did not kill the Intellivision. It killed Mattel's ownership of it, as they took a bath on this whole video game thing. They wanted out, so a new group called INTV Productions was they were former Intellivision employees, and they basically picked up the slack, as it were, and they kept the Intellivision alive-ish in the well into the NES era. It's kind of like how the Atari 2600 actually had a pretty long afterlife, as it actually survived the crash and lived up to 1991.
Wow.
Jesus.
That part doesn't get mentioned too often. And there were new games that came out. In fact, like shit like Atari Warriors and Double Dragon were ported to the Atari 2600. Obviously, they are fucking terrible because the Atari 2600 is a system that has no business running games like that. I mean, fuck.
I think I sent a link to you guys. I saw a Mega Man deconstruction that looked like it, like if they had actually put the extra memory and the sound chip in the cartridge like they did with Pitfall 2, it could actually have been playable on the Atari 2600. Mega Man 2 on the Atari 2600. That was a very surreal experience for me.
Mhm.
Anyway, so the Intellivision kicked around up until the 90s. Like the INTV era lasts from 1984 to 1990. And then we enter the kind of a cold period, and then the late 90s happen, and then Golden Age retro revivals start to become all the rage, and that leads to the Intellivision Lives initiative. Like, you've probably seen one of those compilation packs on one of the like PlayStation 2 or Windows or what have you. Like, Intellivision emulation is kind of wonky, and that's not necessarily anything to do with technology. It's more to do with, once again, those fucking controllers. Because, as it turns out, it's not really easy to emulate an Intellivision controller. Granted, for the arcade games, it's not really a problem because, that really didn't take advantage of the controller. But once again, if you want to play, say, Utopia, you need to make use of the controller, and that's not an easy thing. It's like I've never seen a good solution for emulating the full Intellivision controller.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Intellivision, there has been like an Intellivision flashback console, like the Atari flashback. And the reason I wanted to talk about Intellivision is because there is a new Intellivision entertainment entity, which is looking to launch a new Intellivision console system. Oddly enough, the shambling remnants of Atari are right at this very minute doing an Indiegogo campaign of a new VCS.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Like modern, or just kind of like a
it's
NES
HDMI
Mini
compliant.
thing?
It's Android based. It probably has a Tegra processor because I'm sure the same idiots behind this also were involved in Oya.
No, but we've actually had these people on our show.
I'm joking.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's like we've met the modern Atari Inc. That was one of the worst interviews we've ever done.
Like, because
market
of
speak,
because they were
market speak, market speak.
Yeah, I'm like, they were some of the most, they like the kind of like they were so they were marketers, like, and you can tell they were complete fucking phonies. Like,
Oh, so I guess my original statement can stand just for different reasons.
yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't know how this new VCS thing is going to iron out. Like, apparently it's going to have new games, like Tempest 4K is coming to it. But, and what bearing that has on this new Intellivision project is yet to be known. Because, like, they just literally announced that they're doing a new console, whether that be, you know, a VCS thing, a mini console, another installment of the flashback. Please God, don't use fucking games. Like,
I'm still crying over the last Genesis flashback.
yeah, it's like,
God damn it.
yes, like they do not make good consoles. I don't know how they keep getting work, but
They're
do.
cheap.
That's probably it. Like, you know, it's very frustrating to see that the Genesis collection's treated like that.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But anyway, and it's going to be interesting to see whatever this console is. You know, what are they going to do for the controllers? Because please, dear God, don't emulate the original controllers. Like, they're not good. Like,
but everyone loves them.
But they need to be just like the Jaguar controller.
The
Get
Jaguar
out.
controller's better.
Have you actually held one in your hands?
Yes. I'm like,
You sounded a little uncertain there.
I'm like, but here's the thing. I have big hands, so.
I own one. I have probably bigger hands than you, Adam. Oh my God, that controller.
Yeah, I know the Atari Jaguar was not optimal, but I'd still take that.
You just Obama that one. Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's not a
Obviously,
good term to use.
Yeah, it's like, okay, how do I put this? The Atari Jaguar controller is shit. The Intellivision controller is shit plus. You know,
Okay,
it's still
I'll
not
accept that.
it's still not the worst. Like, that's still the Atari 5200. You know, with the easily breakable.
That's like saying it's better to munch on a dry turd than a wet one.
That's kind of where we're at here. Like, all of these phone controllers were terrible. Just awful ideas, and thankfully that was an evolutionary dead end. Like, ugh.
And they kept breaking.
Surprise Sony's next controller.
Like, and the worst thing about the Intellivision...
You know what? You go die in a fire, sir.
Well, it's like the worst thing about the Intellivision controllers is they hurt. You know, your finger would get caught up under them.
That is worse.
So, like I said, none of these controllers are good. So,
I mean, there's a reason that pretty much every controller since the NES controller is basically based on the NES controller.
Well, even that, like, you know, you had the joysticks, you had the one button in affairs. Like, I seriously do not know why phone controllers became a mini trend. You know, especially considering the games of the age.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in fact, like, like the best these controllers could manage were like the strategy games, like the FPSs, you know, whatever. Like,
there was a tank game that it was kind of okay for that I remember playing.
Yeah, the point of order is they weren't really useful for the age, or really ever. Like, but anyway, final thoughts on the Intellivision.
It was a thing that happened.
Yeah, I remember having fun with it, but I was a little an easily entertained kid, and yeah, objectively there were a lot of issues with, especially the controller, but I don't know.
It was a wee bit before my time.
Yeah. Then
Well,
again, when I was playing it, I was already used to the NES. So.
it was before my time as well. It's like I really didn't get to
Yeah.
experience any of the golden age systems until way aftermarket.
I experienced them all firsthand, laddies. And I have to tell you, it was a thing that happened in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago.
Okay.
No more Gen for Mac.
Yeah, it looked like a frustrating experience.
I enjoyed some of it, but I mean, games they have on it that I played all the time: Frog Bog and Blackjack. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but by that time, I already had a ColecoVision. By the time I got an Intellivision, my family was broke. Full disclosure, I didn't get an Intellivision until 1989, and like I said, I found it at a garage sale for $4 with 8 games.
I think I did most of my Intellivision playing on GameTap back in the day.
Ah, yes.
Anyway, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. The week ahead. Up first, we have 2 reviews coming on Sunday. I've got good news. A Quest for the Big Key is finally out of... Or no, The Quest for the Big Key is finally out of early access, so we can review this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really short.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also got a game that's a bunch of symbols that spell out warriors. So I'm just going to call it warriors.
Yeah, it's warriors in some kind of weird leet speak thing.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this thing, and I am failing. I'm not sure what this is exactly, but it's cheap.
It's a very fire bad beer good.
Yeah, it's like, and it's short as well. I think that's kind of the point of these games.
Mm-hmm.
They're short. They don't they weren't going to take up a bunch of time, and that's helpful during E3 week. But anyway, so next week we return back to normal, normal format, normal guests, and indeed I can say we have guests coming next week. They both confirmed. On Tuesday, June 19th, we will be having Throughline Games. They are the developers of Forgotten and really nifty looking platformer game from the Square Enix Collective.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just check who they named. Right, because they changed the guest. We'll be having Vladimir, their lead game designer, instead of Alfred Nguyen. It happens. Sometimes the guests switch people on us. Doesn't really matter all that much as long as we have a person to talk about the game. The most it does is it depends on what their job title is. If they're a programmer, we're going to ask more programming questions. If they're a designer, game design, and so on and so forth. Anyway, on Wednesday, June 20th, we'll be having Stephen Kick of Night Dive Studios back on the program. I think it's been about a year since he's been here. We'll be talking about the System Shock remake. Possibly we'll be talking about Forsaken and Power Slave. I'm not sure how much they want to talk about that because technically they're unannounced. Well, actually, they announced Forsaken on our program way back when. It even showed up on their Wikipedia page.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Power Slave thing got exposed not too long ago because trademarks are a thing, and people have eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll also probably be talking a bunch of classic game stuff, preservation, what have you. It's a topic that comes up. Anyway, so until Sunday, I wish you good gaming.